Hello everyone, welcome back to Selenium Ninja. Before moving ahead, I would like to appreciate everyone who is finding wonderful content from this YouTube channel. Recently, I saw a lot of comments saying that this channel, some of the videos are really helping them, and I'm really glad that this channel is helping you guys out. Basically the objective of this channel is to help people like myself, people like you who want to achieve a career in the QA field in the IT industry. So before moving ahead with this playlist, we are going to see some of the interview questions that are asked in 2022, and these questions are based on the personal experience. Personal experience, I mean, I have given a lot of interviews in the MNC companies recently from the past 6 to 8 months, and I have been rejected multiple times. But rejection, make rejection your best friend, and you will come to know how failure helps you grow. And if you are failing at a young age or young career or the start of your career, then it's a plus point for you. I'm not telling you about success, it's also, but from failures we learn. So these questions are based on personal experience, and the IT market has saw a boom post COVID. So the interview process is getting tough and tough because the hiring is going frequently in the IT industry. These are some of the interview questions for manual testing that I think they are asked multiple times in the interviews in this year. So before going to an interview, remember one thing in your mind, that the interviewer is not looking for the candidate who is answering 100% of the questions. No candidate can answer 100% of the questions. So if your goal is to the goal should be answering the questions between 65 to 75% or 80%, because if you answer the questions in this range, I can, like, there is a high probability that you will get a chance to, you'll get an opportunity to be selected, right? Based on my personal experience, other person might give 100% of the answers, still not get selected, right? But whenever the interviewer is asking questions, try to give some answer. Even if you don't know the exact answer, tell the interviewer that I can just give I can just what you can say, you tell the interviewer that I don't know the exact answer, but I'll try. This way the interviewer thinks, yes, the candidate does not know, but the candidate is trying to try, and that's the candidate they want. They don't want the candidate who knows everything, because nobody knows everything. They want someone who can try, because when you try, you fail, then you learn. This is a process, right? This is a progression process, you must know. So these are, let's look into the some of the questions that I think are good to go in this particular year. Also guys, one small request is there. If you like this video, I know this is getting a little bit long introduction. If you like this video, I have a number of other questions available for Selenium, for Java, for manual testing. For this video, I have only selected limited 15 questions. So before so let's get started. The first question is, what is FPA in testing? FPA means function point analysis. If you are going through the ISTQB certification, you will find this concept there. It is a method to measure the functional size requirement that is delivered to the users. So in other words, what does function point analysis mean? When a user, when the client gives you a functional requirements, that they want these functionalities in the application, in the software, so you are just updating them that this much functionality has been completed. So how you tell them that this much functionality has been completed? By FPA. So in other words, function point analysis is a method of functional size measurement. It assesses the functionality that is delivered to the users. The simple answer, don't remember the definitions, just think what I am telling you, because in the interview you will forget the definitions. Just think this small concept and try to bring that in your own words. I'm also trying to bring the solution in my own words. Moving ahead, what are forced bugs? Understand the word forced. So we are forcing something to come out as a bug. So let me just give you an example before answering these questions. If you if you click on these minimize buttons multiple times, what will happen? If you click on some button, what will happen? Eventually this will stop this will create some bugs, right? You can see here. So these are forced bugs. We are forcing something to come out with a non-typical behavior, right? You saw on the screen what happened. These are called forced bugs. So this is nothing, forcing a bug with a non-typical behavior. Non-typical behavior means that something is not expected from the user side, right? We are forcing, this is not the way the software is expected to work, right? So forcing a bug with a non-typical behavior that is not relevant to the customers is called a forced bug. Examples you can write. Examples is tapping on multiple elements at the same time, as we saw just a couple of seconds ago, right? The another example you can give is sometimes we press randomly, right? Random button pressing. All right, if you want a better definitions, yeah, you can always search on the internet, but I'm trying to keep it specific and small, right? Now moving the third question, what is mutation testing? This is one of the questions that I also figured out in this year itself, because I was not aware what does this type of testing mean. So mutation testing, it is a type of testing that is performed to design new software tests, but it is also used to evaluate the quality of already existing test cases. Suppose you have already created a website or any application and you have already created test cases for that, you have implemented the testing for that, but when mutation testing comes into place, you create new test cases, but you also look for the old test cases that were created and you look into the quality of those test cases, like was everything implemented correctly, are there any pending bugs? So this is called mutation testing. Let me write it. It is a type of testing that is performed to design new software tests and evaluate the quality of already existing software tests. Guys, I make mistakes while writing, please ignore that, right? So this is mutation testing, but I want to know what are the objectives. If there are multiple testing tools available, multiple testing types available, what are the objectives of? So the objectives are, the first objective is it helps you to identify the code, the previous code that was not tested properly. Remember guys, here we are also checking the quality of already existing test cases, right? This is the main difference between mutation testing and other type of testing. We are checking the quality of already existing software test cases that were developed earlier by someone else, you don't know, but you have to implement, you have to look into that again, right? So the first objective is to identify the code that was not tested properly, right? The second part will be identify defects like that were not detected earlier. Identify defects that were not detected earlier. The third will be we can discover new bugs or errors because of the new test cases. So these are some of the objectives that I think are sufficient for mutation testing when it comes to the interview purpose. But guys, remember, don't skip this video. Don't just copy paste the definitions. First understand, because if you got these points in your head one time, then you don't need to look back into the text again. You don't need to look for the definition. Just understand the difference, because the QA is seeing a good opportunities in the coming time, because the startups are bringing a great value to the IT industry in the country and in the world, right? So don't skip this video, right? The video is going to be a little bit long, but trust me, it will be worthy. These all interview questions are based on 2 years of experience, and the number of failures I have seen, I can guarantee you that a person who has 15 years of experience has not seen as many failures as I have seen for in these 2 years, right? It all depends how you work. Get out of your comfort zone and start working. Let me just plug in the charger. Okay, moving ahead, what is ad hoc testing? What is ad hoc testing? So remember the simplest definition of this, guys. When you start performing testing on an application without any plan, it is known as ad hoc testing. It is known as ad hoc testing. The simple definition: performing random testing. Performing random testing without any plan is known as ad hoc testing. There are some other names for this testing also, like it is also known as random testing, monkey testing. So basically these names I figured out while I was preparing for the ISTQB certification, right? If you are a tester, you must look for the ISTQB as well, because it gives you a great experience from the scratch level of the QA, right? So like, what are the objectives of the ad hoc testing? Why do we need ad hoc testing, and what are the types? So ad hoc testing is simple performing testing without any plan. So what are its types? The sum of its types are, I think the first one is buddy testing. As the name itself suggests, buddy, right? You pick anybody, you pick any of your friends with your side, and you start identifying the defects in the module. That's called as buddy testing, right? That's simple. The other is pair testing. Pair means, it also means two, right? So two testers from the assigned module, they share ideas and they work on the scenarios. That's it. Simple. Buddy testing, pair testing. And the third one is, I think it was monkey testing. Monkey testing. What does monkey do in the trees? They jump from one branch to another branch. They jump from one tree to another tree. That's the same we are going to hear. We are going to do the same thing, because our main objective is to break the software. We are looking for something which can break the software. In the buddy testing, let me just write the definition. Two buddies work on identifying defects in the same module. And for pair testing, two testers are assigned module, share ideas, and find defects. Guys, these are very short definitions. Like, I had to do a lot of research to get these type of definitions, right? What is functional testing? This is a question you must have heard in your past. This is a 100% surety question. What is a functional testing? In easier terms, testing the functionality of the software is called as functional testing. Functional means we are giving some input and we are expecting some sort of output. What the black box testing exactly is. So functional testing, it is a form of black box testing, and it focuses on the software functional requirements, right? Moving ahead, what is non-functional testing? opposite of functional testing. In the functional, we are only looking for the functional requirements, but in the non-functional testing, we are looking the performance, the durability of the application. So it focuses on the non-functional requirements like performance, durability, security, scalability, etc. Right? So when you focus on, like, you have created a successfully an application, but you want to check how durable is that. Let me just give you an example. We are seeing the sale on Flipkart, the big billion days, right? Flipkart has already created an application, the web application, the mobile application. It is working fine. But when the sale is going on, billions of customers, millions of customers at a time come to the application. What will the application do? If it is not durable, it will crash. It will crash. The Flipkart sale will no longer be accessible for the users because the application is not accessible. So to do that, to avoid this type of condition, we check the non-functional requirements, the performance, the durability, the load, how much load our website or our application can handle at a single time. So this has become one of the major type of testing when it comes to the e-commerce on Amazon, Myntra, Flipkart, or any other e-commerce website. Millions of customers are shopping at the same time, and I believe you don't I believe you don't face any issue when you place an order, because when you place an order, the same second other millions of customers are also playing the order. So that is the biggest advantage of the non-functional testing. Example example will be, I don't think there is a need to give example. The best example is the e-commerce that I have given you, right? So moving ahead, what are some of the common mistakes that lead to major issues, right? As a tester, I'm from my personal experience as a tester, I'm telling you something. First thing is, do not underestimate anything. When designing test cases, do not underestimate anything. It means anything, something that is having high priority or something that is having low priority, because you don't know thing will be which thing will initiate the bug. So don't underestimate anything. The second point is ignoring small issues. This is a good point. No matter how small the bug is, no matter how small the issue is, it is always an issue. It will always be a bug. So do not ignore any type of small issue, because small issues lead to big failures, right? The third point should be not following the exact process. So when it comes to testing, follow the software development lifecycle model, follow the STLC, software testing lifecycle. Do not jump into the model, into the STLC lifecycle and start working from them. No, start from the top, to start from the scratch to the bottom, right? Follow a particular order in order to bring the best out of testing. The last point will be improper resource allocation. So whenever you have got a project, whenever you have been assigned a project to start testing the application, make sure that you have sufficient information, sufficient resource available for that software. Resource, I mean the tools, the techniques, the test environment, the documentation, the business perspective of the application, how it is going to affect the clients. So basically, I believe the customers are the top priority. This is a personal belief, because when your customers are happy, your product is valuable to them, because it takes a village to develop a product, right? It's the developing a product is not an easy task. It takes months, and somewhere I saw the statement, it takes a village to develop a software. I think that's 100% correct. So moving ahead, what is latent defect? So this is also a new type of question that I recently figured out. Earlier I was also not aware of this question. Sometimes when you see in this application, you see there is some bug. There is already some bug that is not affecting the working of the application. Such type of bugs are called latent defects. Basically these are low priority defects that does not like initiate any other bugs, or that does not cause harm to the software. So what is, in easiest terms, it is a hidden defect which has been in the software for a long time and hasn't been discovered. Why it is not discovered? Because it usually remains hidden or is a low priority defect. So basically the low priority defects that are very low, sometimes the tester ignores those issues deliberately, or sometimes the issue is not figured out while the testing process is done. So these type of bugs do not harm the application, but still the application is not bug free. In fact, the application will not be bug free at any time, even if you do 100% testing, because it is not possible. You will forget the scenarios. But these type of defects are called latent defect. What is a blocker? I think I don't need to write any definition for this thing. What is a blocker? Because a blocker is something, it is the high priority and high severity bug in the application. It blocks everything. Suppose the login functionality. If there is a blocker in the login functionality, user will not be able to access the application, right? Like Facebook, if you are not able to enter the credentials, the login and the password, the email ID and the password, you will not be able to explore the Facebook application or any other application. So a bug which is of high severity and high priority, that's called a blocker. Alright, moving ahead, what is the difference between retesting and regression testing? This is a common question that I have been faced multiple times in my interviews, right? So retesting and regression testing, let me just write it in points. I'll share you 2 points. If you remember those 2 points, you don't need to visit again, you don't need to search the answer for this question again. Retesting means we perform retesting on something to verify the defect fixes. There is a bug, it has been fixed, we retest the same test case. That's done, that's called as retesting. But regression testing is, it is that it assures that the bug that you have fixed does not break any other parts of the application. In retesting, you only test that particular case that was giving bugs, but in regression testing you are testing everything from scratch again, but quickly, to check the bug that has been fixed does not affect any other functionality, any existing functionality in the software, right? So let me just write the testing. Retesting is to verify the defect bugs, the defect fixes, sorry. But regression testing assures that the bug fixes does not break other parts of the application or the software. This is one point. This is very easy to understand. Regression testing, as I said, regression testing verify all other test cases, because it is used to test the entire application again. But retesting involves the execution of test cases that failed earlier. Got it now? So if you remember those two definitions, I can guarantee you, not guarantee, but I have a high probability of 70% that you will not have to search, or you will not forget the difference between retesting and regression testing. Retesting, again, retesting means to focus on the test case that failed earlier, and regression means when the bug is fixed, you need to test again the application to check and anything any other functionality has not been affected when when any of the bugs have been rectified. Now moving ahead, what is pesticide paradox? Let me just start with an example here. If you have created the test cases and you are executing the same test cases again and again for an application, you have created test cases for an application and now you are executing the same test again and again. So what will happen? So these test cases will eventually be no longer finding any bugs because you are just repeating the test cases. So this type of testing is called pesticide paradox. It says if the same tests are repeated again and again, eventually eventually the test cases will no longer be able to find new bugs. So what is the solution for that? In order to find new bugs, you must write new test cases or prepare new test cases, right? So what the definition is, if the same tests are repeated over and over again, eventually the same test cases will no longer find new bugs. So what will you do that in that case? Write whole new set of test cases, and when you write the new test cases, add those new test cases to the existing test cases. Guys, I am making it as easier as I can make it. If you face any issues with these questions, yeah, please mention in the comments. I'll be glad helping you guys out, right? Because this is the objective of this channel, to help people. Because I was also a beginner some time ago in automation and in testing. I'm still a beginner, but I'm in a position where I fail, while I love failure, and it helps me to grow. So please guys, mention in the comments. Now moving ahead, what is the difference between sanity testing and smoke testing? This is 90% probable question that you will get asked in an interview. On the probability of 10 interviews, in 8 interviews I have been asked what is the difference between the two. And if you Google this same question, you will get 1000 answers for this question. But while searching for a lot amount of time and failing to answer this question, I have figured out the best answer to this question. And I believe if you remember this definition, you will never have to search again for this question, sanity versus smoke. Let me just start with an example. I told you earlier, don't skip this video because of the time duration, because it will clear your concepts for the testing. Tomorrow you might go to the ISTQB certification. Then if your concepts are clear, then you will be able to crack the ISTQB certification. Remember that, not just the interview. So what is sanity testing, or what is smoke testing? See, let me just give you an example. After that I'll write the definition. Smoke testing means you are logging into an application, Facebook application, login and password, username and password. You entered into the application. But this login feature, this is a critical functionality of any application, right? So to check the critical functionality, to check whether the critical functionality of an application is working correctly or not, that is called smoke testing. Again, this is as simple as it can be. Smoke testing, it is a type of testing done on a software build to check the critical functionalities of the program, right? Smoke testing is a special type of testing performed on a software build to check the critical functionalities. When we can use run the smoke testing, so when you are automating things, you try to run the smoke testing daily. Why you try to run the smoke testing daily? Because this is a critical functionality. If this is not working, the application will go down, it will not work, because the login functionality is a critical one. When you are able to log in, you can access the application, right? You can run it daily to check login is working correctly or not. Sorry, my spelling mistakes. Right, this is smoke testing. Now what is sanity testing? Sanity testing, now I'm sure you must be have got the clear understanding of smoke. Sanity means when you receive a build with minor changes, right? When you receive a build with minor changes, then you test the application again to check whether there are any issues coming with this new build or not. That is called as sanity testing. So I can give you an example. I was working on a developer with a project with the developer, and the build number 14 was completed. 14 is just an example, but there were some additional comments made in the software, in the code, by the developer. So I told him to remove those comments, and he removed those comments from the build 14. I directly didn't tell the developer to remove the comments, but the developer suggested that we need to rectify the code, or we need to optimize the code. So for that, the developer created a build number 15 with just removing those number of comments lines. So I received a new build number 15. What I had to do, it was already tested, because 14 was already tested and it was working. So I did a sanity check on the build number 15 to check whether everything is working fine or not. That is called as sanity testing, right? Sanity testing is performed after receiving a build with minor changes in code, right? So to check to check that the bugs have fixed or no other issue is coming due to these changes. So the main thing is we check no further issue are introduced due to these new changes. Guys, I'm trying to give you the practical example, not just the definition. I gave you the real example of smoke testing as well as the smoke testing, right? As I said, if you don't understand this, please replay the video of the sanity testing. Try to repeat it a couple of times. You will get the definition, you will get the understanding of that, right? So basically, when we receive a new software build with minor changes, then we check whether everything is working fine, or is there any breakage due to these new changes. Alright guys, if you face any issues, please mention in the comments. What is static testing and its types? What is static testing? The best definition for that on the internet is testing the application without executing the code is known as static testing. I also learned this definition a couple of years ago, but when I came to the practical thing, then I realized what exactly static testing is. The definition I can write is performing testing without executing any code is known as static testing. But what does that mean, right? If you are a beginner, if you don't have any experience, you will get confused. What does that mean? How we can test the application without executing the code? The first important point you must be aware of static testing is that it is done at the earliest stage of the development, as it is easier to identify the errors and solve the errors. Now we will look how we can solve the errors. The first point is informal review. You have created, suppose you have created a test document. Now you are sharing the same test document with one of your friends in the organization, or you are sharing the test document with your colleague. So what are you trying to do? Now you are looking into the test cases with your friend or any colleague. So if there is anything extra that you have used in the test cases, your friend might tell you that remove this test case, we don't need this test case, right? Or if there is anything missing important, if there is any important test case missing, your friend will tell you, hey buddy, you have to implement this thing, right? So what did you achieve by this informal review? You achieved the errors or the issues that you will face in testing later times when you are implementing the test cases. So the informal review is, it is low cost. You spend some time with your friend and you discussed on the test cases and figured out how we can improve test cases, right? This is the best point about static testing. The second point is walkthroughs, right? So the purpose of those informal review, walkthroughs, the technical review, the objective is to find the defects without executing the code. Like by going through the documentation, you are going to look for the defects, right? So the main purpose of walkthrough is that it the main objective is to find defects, improve the software product, and most importantly evaluate the standards and the specifications are met, right? The third point is the inspections. Right? So who does the inspection? As the word itself suggests, you are showing the document, you are sharing the resources with one of your senior level managers, and you are discussing how you are going to test the application, right? So when you are discussing, when you are meeting, when you are sharing your resources, the inspector, the moderator will give you some information that how you can improve this thing. They will basically give you the feedback, and based on that we figure out the potential defects, the quality to evaluate, and all other things. And this is all done without executing any line of code. Now I am sure you must be aware what is static testing and why is this definition known as executing testing without any code, right? So executing tests without any code means you are going through the documents, the resources, and discussing with your high level managers, your colleagues, your friends to basically have a clear understanding of what we need to test. One question I'll add here as 14, what is dynamic testing, right? Because it is the opposite of static, that's why I have added here. Dynamic testing means, like, in static no code was executed, but in dynamic testing it executes the software and validates the output with the expected outcome. So basically we are executing the code here, the types of dynamic testing are unit testing types. Unit testing is a type of dynamic testing. I'm sure you must be aware of unit testing. If not, then please mention in the comments and I'll create a video of other manual testing interview questions. The other type is called the integration testing. The third one is the system testing, and so on so long, because there are many types of testing, right? But the objective here is we are executing the code, we are executing the software with some input and we expect some outcome. That's called as black box testing also, right? In black box testing what we do, we enter the input and we focus on the output rather than the internal implementation. That's what black box testing is, right? So dynamic testing is executing the software with code. So just don't confuse myself as dynamic testing as black box testing. No, I just gave the difference. If you are not sure, just please rewind this video last 10 to 20 seconds, you will get to know. All right, now let's move. How can a tester decide that a product is ready to be moved into the live environment? This is one of the practical questions that I faced in the interview. Before answering this question, always understand that when you are working in the organization, there is no I. So don't try to be the only person responsible for the software, right? There is no I. There is always we. We as a team, we have to think as a team. So when the interviewer asks you this question, they are trying to read your mind, how well you are a team player, how well you can contribute to the team. Basically we are contributing to the members, to the team. So there is no I. Do not give the answer straightforward. Always try to answer that it is always a joint decision between the testers and the developers and the high level management. When you say this thing, the you have a good impact on the interviewer. So let me just write a simple definition for this. It is a joint decision by testers, developers, managers, right? It is a joint decision. So now as a tester you have to answer some part of this question, like how can a tester decide, right? How can a tester decide? So when can a tester decide? When you have completed the testing and you are sure that there are no bugs in the application, then you can tell the management, yes, we can move ahead. Then you can give a management a green signal that from the testing side it's a green signal for the software to move into the environment, right? So there are some points you can also mention, that validation of bug reports. So when you have created a bug report and everything is validated, when that's completed, validation of bug reports. The other might be validation of test coverage and so on. Basically when there are no bugs, then from the testing side we can tell the team management that yeah, we can go ahead with the project. But again, it's a mutual decision between all the team players, right? Always remember that if you want to grow in the IT. Now what is the difference between project and product, right? So this is not a specific testing related questions, but I have been asked about this question. So what is a project? A project is a specific set of operations that is designed to accomplish a goal. That's the meaning of project. We are doing work on a specific thing and we are trying to achieve something out of it. That's a simple definition for project. A project is a task with specific set of operations that are designed to accomplish a goal. Guys, you can find much better definitions on Google, but I try to keep them as simple as in my mind, because anytime we can get the interview call at any time. I have given interviews at 12 a.m. in the midnight, 1 a.m. in the midnight, so 6 a.m. in the early morning. So interviews can come at any time. That's why you don't need to rely on the internet based definitions. You need to rely on your own thoughts. What is your understanding, right? Because you know the definitions we forget, but the thoughts we can recreate the new definition with our own thoughts. So that should be the objective, right? And the product. What is a product? A product is a service, like Facebook. It is a service or an application, right? That is usually created for sale purpose or to meet the customer requirements for the end user. We are using Facebook to connect with friends. We are using Facebook for, I think, video calling or content creating. I'm not using Facebook, that's why I am not aware of this thing. But it is an application that is created for generally for sale to help the customers. We can connect on Facebook, right? We can start chatting, sharing content, sharing memories. Yeah, that's the simple definition of a product. A product is a service or application that is usually created for sale or to meet the requirements for the customer or End user. So end user is a good word. Sorry. I hope guys these questions are helpful for you. I know this video is a little bit long, but once you go through this video completely, you will have a better understanding of all those questions. Then also I'll suggest you one point: always try to give interviews, as many interviews as you can give, because when you fail in the interviews you learn. Because some of the questions that I was not aware, I came to know with the interviews. Also, I have a set of framework related questions available on my local PC. I'll be glad sharing those. But if these questions are helpful to you, please mention them in the comment section. Thank you and stay tuned for the new updates.